Corey and Jody here. Kind of a recap last week's 2025 Lake Mead Lawn Bass U.S. Open. So we've been there one other time to that lake.
Yes,
right.
It's
Worked out pretty good for Jody. She got sixth place on the amateur side, and at least having some familiarity with a single body of water. Because all this year, everything we fished has been totally brand new. We've never seen it before. So I got there about a week earlier. I started pre-fishing. I don't know, a couple of different things, which cut to the chase. It didn't work out, but I did have faith that they would. And the first day of competition was wiped out because of predicted or forecasted high winds, and in all reality, Lake Mead is probably not a lake that you want to be messing around with. It's the largest man-made lake in America. There's three large man-made basins. The water's over 400 feet deep. It can be a totally different climate from one basin to the next. It's really a wild place to be. And speaking of wild, you can see sheep, wild burros, coyotes within 30 feet of you if you're that close to the bank. It's a huge desert wilderness area, you might say. The fishing probably does not remain the same day after day. I mean, yeah, I gotta make some changes, if they became, I think anyway, in my mind, I don't think that the fish just move 5 miles away, but certainly I don't know that you can catch them 3 days in a row the same way. I'm pretty certain of that. And as it turned out in this tournament, as well as last year, those guys had to make some changes. I picked Jody up at the airport, so I took Saturday off from pre-fishing, and she came in, and then we got right back to it on Sunday. Tournament started on Wednesday. And then, what was your thoughts about flying out to a tournament? Because I got to fly out to, I didn't have any choice, out to the lake in Shasta in Northern California back in February due to work schedule, what she picked me up at. It was kind of cool, just knowing all your stuff's there, and you just fly in and go to work the next day.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say. Like, it was pretty easy that I didn't have to worry about the travel, the drive out there, the boat, the gas, the having to stop, nothing,
Yeah.
And all the flights were good. There wasn't much delay, so thank God for that.
Yeah, but, rolled right in.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we ended up going to Temple Bar. That's where Corey landed pretty much the whole time until we moved into Boulder City, but Temple Bar. So that was a good experience, a good location.
Yeah, I think you could break that lake down into at least 6 different lakes, and Temple Bar being the furthest most eastern, which kind of covers maybe 3 of those lakes or 4 by itself, if you were going to break it down to, say, lakes, and pretty much wallered all over, looking around. Some other really key fishermen that were fishing up there as well. They give it a go, and I think they peeled out like after a few days, like maybe this ain't the deal for them. I happened to be on something that had stuff I felt like I should be able to count on. It was every couple of days I'd check on them, and it was good. Like still keeping my fingers crossed all the time, but I didn't feel like it was going to let me down. Long story short, it did let me down, but I mean, you just do what you can, and then so we fished together for a couple 3 days.
Yep. Fished together a couple 3 days. Got to see some different water and fish some different water. I'd been through it, but I hadn't really fished on it. And yeah, it was. I mean, you were dialed in. You knew exactly what you needed and wanted to do.
If you would have asked me that before the tournament, I would have felt exactly that way.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be a full commitment. But by the end of each tournament day, I would have had a bag that was. But hey, man, there's probably 20 other guys that felt the same way.
Well, I know
it didn't pan out for us.
So. We were lucky enough to be by a couple, a legend.
Rick Clun.
Yeah, Rick Clun
and his wife Melissa.
And there was nothing. It was really cool to be able just to talk to Rick and his wife, but just to hear him say. I went to him after we got done fishing one day, and he's like, well, how did it go? And I said, I was having issues with this and that. And he says, you're gonna just have to become one with your fishing, and it'll come in time. And then he also said, that, man, I'm trying a couple different things, but he said, to be honest, I'm not. He hadn't found. He didn't. He just said that he hadn't found anything yet that was what he felt was kind of what I gathered solid. And he did, what I really got out of that was, he called it an equalizer lake, which, that's so true. Some days 1 hour you're gonna be on it, the next hour you're gonna think, what is happening?
I'll make 5 minutes.
Right.
Maybe 5 minutes.
I know the experience from last year to this year. Holy cow. It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah. What I took away from, I had a lot more evenings to visit with Rick and Melissa, and most of our conversations were not really focused on fishing. More about the real life world stuff. And but it also pertains to fishing, because you want to be able to keep your balance. You want to still feel in tune with what you think is right and what you're doing and what you think the fish is doing and the weather, and it goes on for a 30,000 page book probably, but it's still how you handle yourself as a person, and who you are, and being comfortable, and you can't win them all. Nobody has ever won them all, including him, and just doing what you think is right, on and off the water. And gosh, that was a real blessing that I had. That I'd say very few people on the planet has had that experience, evening after evening, and very grateful for that. If I could take one thing away from that whole tournament, which wasn't real great for me, but I feel like it was such a success because I got to spend so much time every evening with Rick Clun. We roomed right beside each other, and he didn't treat me like I was a nobody. There wasn't any click games, click circles, none of that goofy mess. He truly talked to me like a human being, that had a passion for the same sport that he's had a passion for his whole life. And that's like the true champion mentality that you're just not going to find very often, I don't think, anyway. I haven't been around a lot of true champions, but the other ones that have been around, you know, maybe we just didn't get the stage to click like I did there with him. And you know, 30 years ago, Mr. Klein may have been a little bit too busy, you know, to wave at me in the morning and say good morning, you know, and as he did Jody too, looking over 3 or 4 boats to call us out, which is and everybody knew he was going to be there, and everybody knew that he was there. So yeah, I think we both felt pretty special for him to look us out, you know, to say good luck and good morning and things like that. You know, it'll forever be an impression on myself. You know, I told him a story about one time, you know, watching TV this years and years ago, gosh, 30 or 35. I was so damn mad at Denny Brower. I was cussing at the TV. I was pissed because Denny beat Rick Klein by a little bit on the last day, and I was so mad at Denny Brower for beating Rick Klein, and Rick just laughed, you know, and you know, told me a couple of stories. But then he also, you know, like a few of the people that I really know, and how he would ask, you know, how they're doing. He remembered them, knows them. How are they doing nowadays? You know, what are they up to? What are they doing? You know, like not just what's their stats. It was how are they doing? You know, and that's to me that's incredibly impressionable as to how we all should maybe be a little bit more of. You know, but anyway, I could go on for a long time about that, but
I really enjoy his wife too, Melissa.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just two really good people.
Yeah, as it turns out, Melissa and I were both born in the same town, and there's only a couple years difference between us, you know, and we probably know some of the same people, but yeah, that, like I said, you know, we could go on.
Yeah.
We could make a whole memorialization for our videos out of that alone. But so you were almost not, you were thinking maybe you wouldn't fish this one, and she got 6th place last year on the amateur side out here. So, and I'm like, could you not be 100% all in on that? And she was 12th in the points going into it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Anyway, she made the decision to fly out and fish it. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, it's physically hard, but also mentally very tough. And I'm better now. I should say I'm more skill equipped now than I was back then, but it's still kind of very intimidating. These tournaments are intimidating, but you know, as I roll into more of them, you know, it gets easier. I mean, not easier. How can I say that? The fishing's not
More
easier.
comfortable.
Yeah, it's more comfortable. I feel better about things. There's still sometimes I screw up and I'm thinking, what is going on? And I try to put more wheels moving when really I need to just bring it on down to simple things of not trying to add all these things to it. Just really bring it down to
KISS method.
yeah. So, but you know, yeah, a lot of things on my mind, but you know.
Well, it's particularly much harder for a female in this sport. You know, obviously going to the bathroom would be one. Number two, and I want to stand hard on this. I've watched pro partners realize that they have a female for a partner. It's like, oh man, you know, it's like taking your little sister fishing when you're 5 years old or something. Dude, I'm gonna tell you what, these gals can catch them. And if you're half a pro, all you got to do is get them around fish, and they'll catch the fish for you. Like that. That is, I heard some absurd ass stories all this year um, about pros complaining about their co-anglers, and I haven't heard any stories about. I haven't personally heard any stories about pros, being paired with ladies. But you're a damn fool if you're complaining about having a female in your boat, because I'll take it. You just trade me. You trade me any single day, and I'll take them. Matter of fact, I was talking with Ridge Clum one night, and we were kind of going over this same thing. And he said the very best partner that he has ever had, co-angler, ever in his boat, and this guy's fished 500 BASS tournaments in his career. 500. Plus, not even talking about all the other tournaments. And he said the very best co-angler he's ever had in his boat was Jimmy Houston's wife. That she could catch him, and she knew she could read him well, could feel him, knowing what he was going to do next, what the next move was, and so forth. I mean, I don't know what to tell anybody that's complaining. There's not very many that's complaining, but me being me, I'm going to say it out loud, because if I don't, who will? But I promise you, if at the U.S. Open next week or 2 weeks from now, if somebody draws a lady and they don't like it, come find me. I'll trade you. I promise you, I'll trade you. Just call me as soon as you can. I will trade you. Promise you. Now I'm going to get off my soapbox. You know
what was great though is all of the pros that I have been partnered with. Man, they're my good friends. It's so good to go to these tournaments and to see those guys and catch up, and it's awesome. And they ask, "Oh, Jody, do you remember who I am?" Well, heck yeah, I remember who you are.
Yeah.
Man, you made some great things happen for me.
Well,
so,
you've made a great impression. It's anybody that's complained that they've drawn you just doesn't know any better. Because everybody else knows that you will catch them if you're around fish. You will catch them.
We'll just keep hoping that happens.
Well,
Angler of the Year. Let's talk about that, sir.
No, so I'm about 2 weeks away from the U.S. Open. I'm not even nowhere close. So my goal this year was to be somewhere between 40 and 20 in the points. Now after the fourth event, I'm 32nd, but I've had to fish all of them to get there. And the guys in the upper tier of that are we'd have to fish 30 more tournaments, for me to even reach them. But I met a goal, and that was honestly, that was my goal, was to be somewhere between 40 and 20 in the points, and 32. And I kind of feel like it was a success, mainly because my job is not very forgiving to taking time off. I work in the oil field, and I promise you, Wall Street doesn't give a shit if you got a bass tournament to go to. And now you want to take 10 days off to go pre-fish and go fishing. So there's been some 2 or 3 changes in the last year, right? Because of it. But I'm a bass fisherman, and that's what I'm gonna do. And while I'm back at work, I'm gonna give it everything I got. But I'm 53 years old. I've worked more hours than most people do in 4 or 5 lifetimes. And I think it's just time and fair that, well, I don't guess anything's fair, but I think it's just time that I start doing a little bit more catering to what I want to do. You know, and Jody's been through this with me, you know, where I don't get home till 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I left at 4 that morning. And I'm going to do the same thing for 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row. And then you might get a little break, you know, and only work, you know, 12 hours. And, you know, for the most part, it's probably a 10-hour day, 12 if you count drive time. But when it starts running into 7 days a week for months at a end, it gets a little tough, you know. Well, what it does though is it forces you to make a decision. You know, is it me or is it them? And I love everybody, but it's time for Corey to start doing some Corey stuff. So
so U.S. Open is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What are those dates? Is it the 6th, 7th,
I think 6th, 7th, and 8th of October.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's going to be a huge. What do you think it's like the Super Bowl of? So this would be
On the West Coast, so I'm going to call it the Bassmaster Classic of the West Coast. You got the Bassmaster Classic on the East Coast, and I say East Coast because it's Oklahoma East, right? 105th Meridian East. And you've got a whole lot of nothing until you get out to like Mojave and Havasu and Mead and some of those lakes in California are phenomenal for fisheries, and you don't have anything in between. So we're not going to a different country, but it's 1,000 miles from the East Coast to the West Coast. There's 1,000-mile spread where nothing happens in the middle, right? You're crossing basically a 1,000-mile long desert, you know, to get out there. I am so freaking stoked that we're going to be able to fish this whole entire WAN Bass series this year, and lots of different reasons. One is I've noticed for a long time the guys from the West Coast, there's been some that has been able to go east and really make their mark. You know, I mean, I'm not even going to name drop. It's a real thing. But I don't notice anybody from the east going west and making a shout. I don't think that's ever happened, aside from the U.S. Open, which, you know, I mean, it's a different deal. But as far as just going up and down the West Coast and dominating, that's never happened. Nobody from the East Coast has ever went out and won bass and dominated, right? They might have won the U.S. Open, and that's is one and done. It's the only one they're going to fish. But guys from the West Coast, them guys can catch those fish, dude. I feel like I'm not afraid to fish against anybody on any lake, and I'll take my swats. But those guys on the West Coast, don't ever discount them. I mean, it's a major deal. I think if it wasn't for logistics and finances, that 50% of the crowd would win the East Coast tournaments, and 50% being from the West Coast. I guarantee you. Did I get off track?
All right.
I want to make that clear because that's a fact, Jack. Those guys are good, and I'm fishing against guys that could go over to the East Coast and take it away from them. So when I don't finish so good, I got to remember that these guys are better.
They're the wolf pack.
They're better than the guys out east. So, you know, if I got to go out east and fish against those guys, I already know in my mind that I've made soggy bread out there trying to get something done, and I know what they're all about, dude. And if you think that the West Coast guys, that's way out there in a different country or something, well, it ain't. It's still an American bass, and they can catch them. Let me tell you.
All right. Well, you're going to be headed out what, Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm
Wednesday.
gonna leave out this next Wednesday. I'm gonna stay at my friend Adam's. That's where I left my boat out when we left Mead. An old friend of mine, a good friend. And then I plan on getting there that evening, and then the next day kind of going through my boat and trying to reorganize, because we just made a pile and pulled the cover off of it or over it, and then heading out on that Friday. Actually Thursday I'm gonna put things together. Friday I'm gonna just get on deck, and then our off limits are off. We're good to start pre-fishing on I think it's the 27th, is on Saturday morning, and just give it what I got, for the 8 or 9 days of pre-fish. And like I say, it's the, as far as the West Coast goes, I consider it the Bassmaster Classic on the West Coast. So I look forward to it. Those guys are good. And have you made your mind up yet whether you're going to go to?
Not. I'm strongly probably going to do it. I'm very intimidated though, because it's going to be a total, man. I've talked to quite a few different people, and it's just going to be a tough lake, but it'll be tough for everybody. But I don't know. I should do it just to be able to finish it out. But it's just a huge deal. It's just a huge deal.
Now, you only shook off 1 point at Mead, right, in angler year, so now she's 13th in it, with probably the toughest tournament you've had all year. And so she only sloughed off 1 point there.
Those guys ahead of me, though, man.
They got a lot of points on you.
Yes, they
I
do.
mean, but
Todd in number 1.
you're inside the top 20 on the points, and I don't know anybody that shouldn't be proud of you. The second tournament you ever fished in your life was on Lake Mead, right? And you got 6th place in a one bass deal.
That was last year. Totally different fishing. No, it was good. It was good.
I mean, if anybody from One Bass is watching this, cross your fingers that you draw Jody, because if you do, you're gonna have a good day, as long as you've put the work in and you've found some fish.
That's very nice of you to say.
Well, 100%, I believe it. I believe it 100%. So, is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Well, it's good. We're out.
Take care, guys.
All right. See you on the next one.